Hello and welcome to the second bonus video in these Wind in the Willows reviews. I can't believe it's been 4 weeks since the first one. But these bonus ones are of course for Series 5. I call them bonus ones because they are kind of outside the regular 52 episode series. Mainly because it was titled Oh Mr. Toad in the UK before it was of course retitled as basically Series 5 of the Wind in the Willows. So not last week, 4 weeks ago, it was The Chief's Return, episode 1. This week it's Mr. Toad of the Times, episode 2, which is one of my favourites. I love this one. So yes, let's dive straight into it. I'm going to hit play right now. There we go. Okay, so like I say, this one, definitely one of my favourites from Series 5. This one was actually directed by Francis Fode, who did a number of episodes in Series 5 and also Series 4. And I've said before that Francis Fode also directed Creepy Crawlies, which was kind of happening at the same time, or it finished by the time we got to this final series of The Wind in the Willows. But yeah, I've said before that these opening titles you can see now, you can see both on the screen. On the left, this is the episode we're watching with the original Wind in the Willows titles as available on the DVD box set. On the right, it's the original Oh Mr. Toad titles. They were slightly different at the very beginning. They're basically from the A Tale of Two Toads special. But it started with a title page with Mr. Toad on the screen, basically. And of course, every episode in Series 5 does, of course, start with Toad narrating, so reading from his diary from his bed, and I like that joke straight away. He can't spell the word triumph. I wonder if it's got 2 F's. So this one, I like it. I think it's a really good story. Got some beautiful props in it, particularly the newspaper. What do you call it? Pressing machine that we'll see later. And what I like about the opening is that it's got a beautiful set, as you can see there in that wide shot. A set we really don't see often. In fact, I don't think we do see it until Series 5. It's another area in the grounds of Toad Hall. Look, there's so much depth there. Beautiful with the trees, and we've got the hills, which basically would be a painting at the back with the hills. And of course, you know, I reviewed Toad Astronomer earlier today, and you can see already the differences in the look of the puppets. You know, if you look at how yellow Toad is, all of them have been brightened up, and that's basically because they wanted to spruce up the series. The ratings had fallen a bit, and they wanted to rebrand it, and again, that's why it was called Oh Mr. Toad. I always admire animation of paper. I mean, I've handled paper before, and you can see in ways holding the newspaper there. It's quite sturdy looking. Maybe it should have been a bit floppy, I don't know. Looks very neat, I suppose, for a newspaper, almost like cardboard. But I've animated paper with like a wire mesh inside before, so it's animatable. Is that a word? I don't know if animatable is a word. I think it is. I've invented it. This is nice. Now that happens often, yes. Certainly in Series 4 we saw a lot of that, where Badger makes a remark, a sarcastic remark, I should say, and Toad kind of doesn't really hear it properly, and he assumes that Badger's on the same wavelength. He says, "See, you see," but Badger knows what he's talking about, and then he realises the penny drops. It's a lovely comic time in there, both in the writing and the voice work, of course. I love Mole's vibrant sweater there, beautiful blue. So this is Toad. It's an interesting script idea. I mean, Series 5 is interesting, and I've said before it's probably a series too many. But having said that, I'm very glad we've got these extra 13 episodes. But it's kind of clear that, you know, its ideas were running out. Brian Truman was probably struggling to find new stories, new ideas, new crazes for Toad. And some of them were a bit far-fetched in Series 5. Certainly episodes like a Toad in Time, where Toad gets obsessed with a time machine. That's a very far-fetched one. But this one is on the brink of being far-fetched. He's basically, he wants to start his own newspaper. So, which is doable. You know, it's fine. He can afford to get his own printing kit, printing press machine, and it's interesting that he's saying here that he's already got a distributor. He's already got plans in place, and yet he's already, before all that, he's quite kind of sulking by the fact that he's not in the Times. And then he reveals that he started his own paper. So it's quite unusual. In other episodes, he comes up with the craze there and then. I love this shot, this zoom out. It's always lovely to see the front of Toad Hall. Look at it, isn't it beautiful? There's that statue. I actually saw that in Toad Astronomer on the left there. That exists in the archive, thankfully. Now look at this. This is the kitchen set. So we see it fairly often. You know, it pops up here and there. But look at that lovely printing press machine, isn't it beautiful? And all the details, even like the stains that he's got on his coat there, kind of shows that he's been working hard at things. He's got telltale traces of like love those elections around his eyes, and of course that's there would have been shot in glass. A lot of shots like that on glass in those days. Now this outfit thankfully exists as well. That's in the archive. Now this is a rare appearance from Alfred, and indeed the caravan. You can see the caravan on the right there. It only appears like this in this episode and the episode I'm reviewing next week, in fact, the tournament. And Alfred, same goes for him. It's a shame they didn't make more use of him, because he's a beautiful puppet. He was of course made for the film, but I know for a fact he was very awkward, difficult to animate. So when it's just the head in the stable, much easier than making him walk, I can tell you. They struggled with that a lot in the film, I know that. And this is Alfred not wanting to cooperate. He's very typical of his character. Look at that typewriter. Look at the way it works, like a real typewriter. Again, that attention to detail in the props and in making them work like real things, absolutely wonderful. You just don't get that nowadays, and not even back then in any other shows, really. Now that's Toad's famous library set. Quite a big set, really. And I love the detail, again, when you're dressing the set, you have like, these days you have set dressers, that's their job, and you look at how the paper is sort of strewn across the room, so it's not just neat and tidy. We can see that Toad's had a few goes already and paper's just been discarded, and that is attention to detail and bearing in mind the storyline, continuity and so on. Now this is a typical type of montage sort of scene that you see in not just lots of episodes of this, but lots of series where Toad is basically going from character to character to each of their houses. So we've seen him in his study, we've seen him get the paper going as a result of seeing Alfred. I quite like that we opened with Alfred, it's quite a nice surprise there. And then of course he goes from badgers to moles to rattles. And it's nice to see Badger cooperating. I mean, Badger wouldn't agree with Toad doing this, but he is going along with it. That's nice. Probably slightly out of character for him. But then of course we get back into character where Badger is now saying, you're wasting your time. And this is Toad going from Riverbank Times to Toad Hall Times. Of course. Has to be Toad Hall Times. Centred around himself as always. I like the detail on his hat there, see little bits of paper. What do you call those? I should know this. Why has he got bits of paper in his hat? What does it say there? Press? Any ideas? Leave comments if you know what that is, if you know why he's got bits of paper in his hat. I think that hat is in the archive, so one day I'll study that. Have a closer look. That's a nice bit of animation, that got a lovely rhythm to it in Free. Don't blame me. Working his way up to Badger's kind of snout, I guess. Vibration of Badger's hand there, so just that back and forth, kind of one frame forward, one frame back. It's that lovely typewriter again. Now I've animated a typewriter in 2D. It was my graduation film, centred around a typewriter. I've never done a stop motion one. But to get that mechanical thing, you have to do very sudden, kind of staccato movements. Now this is an interesting sequence. This is the first of these kind of dreamlike sequences. We already know that Billy Rabbit, there he is, he is Toad's distributor. He's kind of dreaming all this. And then we see this very fake looking car going past. Now when I first saw that I thought, oh, that's because they didn't have a budget to make a real car. But then I realised it's not meant to be a real car, this is Toad imagining this. So it's kind of got that flat look to it. Like newspapers. Newspapers are flat, I guess it's along those lines, very cut out sort of look to it, I don't know. Dreamlike look. This makes me laugh. Toad asking Mole, you know, the most exciting thing that's ever happened to him. Mole saying he wants one second prize for his gooseberry jam. Now, if you notice some of the music as well in this series, I've mentioned before that they're all new incidental themes. Keith Hopwood very generously gave me copies of some rare themes many years ago now, but I asked him about Series 5 music, and he does have a lot of it, but it's on a format that can't easily be transferred. So many of you are probably aware of those old reel-to-reel tapes that need baking. Once they're a certain number of years old, you need to bake them to kind of get the temperature to a certain level to be able to play them again. And usually you can only play them once or twice, and then that's it. So you've got to be recording them to preserve them at that time. Very fiddly and technical stuff, so that's why he decided, you know, not to bother with it. But, sad really, because I do love these little incidental things. That beautiful set as well. Generic countryside sets, riverbank sets. Pain to set up though, pain to animate on because of that water. That same, I'm sure it would have been the same kind of mixed substance that they'd used since the film. It'd be interesting to know whether that had changed, whether they improved it or found a different solution to make it easier to work with. Now, when we talk about the animators as well, I mean, this is, I've said this was directed by Francis Foes, and he had his own team. I just grabbed my trusty guide here. So, Mr. Toad of the Times, yes. So, Andrea Lord. Andrea is actually Francis's partner, and I knew them very well. Worked with them both when I was at Cosgrove Hall, but also an animator called Stuart Sutcliffe. This is one of the first episodes he works on, who actually came in series 4. And I've been in touch with Stuart. Stuart, you've already commented on one of my videos, so thanks very much. If you're there, please do leave another comment if you remember this one. Always nice to hear the memories of animators involved, well, not just animators, anyone involved in these episodes. And it's interesting because I remember Series 5 vividly being broadcast in 1990. Previous series, not as much. Obviously, I was younger. I mean, in 1990, I would have been 9 or 10. And I remember them on Children's ITV. I'm Mr. Toad every week. I think around March, April, around this sort of time. But yeah, just shown once and then not repeated again until Channel 5 screened them in 1997 through to 1999. Lord Toad. So we've got this repetition. Back to Billy Rabbit every time something goes wrong. a new headline. Now this is lovely scene. Toad getting very excited. He's ready for the first copy to be printed. He's got everything in place. And there's some beautiful animation in this of the machine working. Very realistic stuff. He's got this, I don't know what would have been used for this ink that he's got here. Look at this shot. Isn't that beautiful? And he looks competent in this. I mean, he seems to look like he knows what he's doing. He's got the generator there. He's got it all set up. To give him credit where credit's due, he's done everything seemingly right. But of course, as we're about to see, things don't quite go to plan. So again, look at this. I mean, this is probably one of the most beautiful props they ever made. I mean, look at all the engineering that went into that. And I know for a fact, you know, when I've spoken to some of the model makers, and every time a new script came in and there was a prop like this, obviously we were making, they would have a meeting saying, well, does anyone fancy making this? And all the hands would shoot up, oh please, I want to do that. Or, you know, furniture is all very well and bits and pieces and what have you, but when it's equipment like that, it's wonderful. Semi-laptop. But David Jason had fun recording this. And I love that, look at that shot, so we can see through it, we can read it. We can read his first page there, and of course it's all printed backwards. Now I've always wondered, how would it do that? If you really think about it, how can a machine print backwards? You'd have to really screw up. I don't know if an actual printing machine could do that, could be built that way. I love that really frantic animation. Of course the switch breaks, of course it does. That's a shot we don't see often. Through the window. Look at that, blowing sheets of paper. Now often when you've got things blowing, as much as you can, you find bits of the set you can kind of stick the pieces to. Especially when it's fast action like that, paper running through, it's only a few frames to get it to flutter through and there as well. But then on occasion you use wires as well. I've used fishing wire before, hanging from above. Got a lovely look this episode, I must say, you know, looking at these countryside scenes by the river. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? All those shades of green, very naturalistic. Just looks stunning, just a feast for the eyes. And look at that depth, I mean that's obviously quite a big set. I don't think they're the miniatures of Ratty and Mole. They look like the full-scale puppets, they certainly are. Now this is interesting, the script, that's funny. Toad says, oh shove off, and Ratty says, don't you mean off shove o? So obviously he's getting him back for the, you know, the backwards talking type and joke there. But then of course now there's this build up to the same kind of joke. You know, Mole's about to read from the Times and there's a backwards, you know, there's a joke in there that's written backwards, but we've already had the joke, so a bit of a weird thing in the script there. But it is Ratty being Ratty, and Brian Truman's told me that gradually Ratty evolved into this character that was very much came out of Peter Sallis, really. There was a certain wit, sarcasm to Peter Sallis, sharp, very sharp, and that just evolved with the characters. Brian Truman told me that, you know, very different to Ian Carmichael, who originally played Ratty, of course, in the film. And if Ian Carmichael had stayed on to do this series, it would have been a very different character with Ratty. Probably wouldn't have evolved in quite the same way. There we go, it's time next luck better. But it's, like I say, it's not as funny because we've had the joke with Ratty saying that you mean off shove-o. So for me, it's a bit weak, personally, in the script, but yeah, I think we've already had the joke. But here's Toad being typical Toad. Drat and a double drat. He says that a number of times, particularly in this series. Certainly at the end of The Tale of Two Toads. So there we go. Interesting if you look at some of these credits. We've got Alan Bardsley there who voiced the horse, and he voiced the horse in the original film. Sadly no longer with us, but nice that he was brought back all those years later. So this being the last series, there are a few new people kind of popped up in this series. Like I said, and the previous series, like Stuart Sutcliffe and yeah, various people. Ted Spooner I'd like to track down. I don't know if he's still with us, but it'd be great to find him to speak to. Nibs, of course I know. Jeff Lawson, I think he's around still. Chris Taylor, I've worked with, of course. Michael Bryan, of course. And there we have Francis Rose, of course. Lovely episode. I think it's one of Francis's, or Frank, we call him Frank as well, one of his best, I think, definitely. Not the best for me is Toad in Love that he did, but still a lovely episode. So, there we go. So, that's 2 down of Series 5, 11 to go. So like I say, I'll stick with this every 4 weeks. There will be a bonus episode from Series 5. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please do leave comments. I'll be so grateful. Really great to get conversation going on each of these episodes. You know, if this is one of your favourites, or if it's not, please do share any thoughts you've got. And particularly anyone who's worked on these, please do offer more comments. You know, it'd be great to just get more knowledge about how this wonderful series was made. Okay, so I'll leave it there. So thanks again for joining me. Happy Easter, everyone. And I will see you next week, like I said in the last video, for the tournament. But in 4 weeks' time, we will be reviewing from Series 5. Where are we? The Compleat Bungler, which is another one by Francis Rose, where Toad goes fishing. Or he tries fishing, I should say. So we'll look forward to that one, and I will see you soon. Thanks very much, and goodbye. Intelligent Mr. Toad, encouraging Mr.